All right, guys, I wanted to show you the process in filleting a big buffalo fish. These are not carp, they are a native sucker. I caught this one snagging. I have already gutted it, and part of the reason why I didn't show that on camera is because I made a rookie mistake and I punctured the part of the guts, and that lets out this yellow liquid, and if you don't wash it off quickly it can ruin the meat. So I had to go into emergency mode, wash it off, and salvage not only the meat on this fish but also the roe. So this particular fish was a female. It was full of eggs. It is now gutted, and I kept those eggs, and I'm going to try a couple different things with them. More on that later. But when you are working with buffalo, thing to remember is they're a little bit different than other fish. They've got a ton of belly meat, and that belly meat is boneless. Whereas the rest of this fish has a lot of bones in it. So, you know, it's a worthwhile cut. Don't skip it. So the first thing we're going to do here, first thing you do with any fish, is I'm going to knock a few of these scales off just so I can start my first cut. And they've got real big, real tough scales. You know, try to keep your knife clean. And we're just going to make a cut along the collar, like so. Like I said, you really don't want to be cutting through the scales. They will dull your knife real quick, and it does help to have a larger, more stout fillet knife for these fish. You know, they're just bigger fish, right? So got that. That's one side, and I'm going to go ahead and flip them over and make that same cut on the other side. Take a few of these scales off. If you have a scaling tool, obviously that's easier, but believe it or not, 3 years being a fishmonger, I have still not bought myself a scaler. A little bit silly, but yeah, you know how it is. Right, so get a few of these scales off. Now we can get in there, make our cuts, and I'm going to be saving pretty much all of this fish. We're going to take the collar and we're going to smoke that. Fish collars, some of my favorite things. All right, now you have two options here. So first option, I'm actually going to turn them around like this. You could do a more classic cut, but that would require you to take off these scales. I don't really want to do that. So I'm just going to put this knife in like this, right? Find that backbone, and I'm going to work along that backbone, facing the knife this way. And right now, I'm pretty much just scoring this meat. I'm really not going that far in, okay? And you'll see here just in a second how beautiful the meat on these fish are. All right, so I'm going to flip them over. Before I start, beating the other cut, we're going to do the same on this side. Just follow that backbone. And they do have a fair amount of pin bones, so you may need like I said, you may need a stout knife. It's a big fish, right? So you're going to need something that can cut through those pin bones. Now that we have our incisions on both sides, just kind of clean these scales off. And just like you would any fish, we're just going to follow along the ribs. Cut through, like so. And you really want to hug those ribs. You know, really try to get all the meat off. I'll go ahead and separate that. Cut through those pin bones when you can. And buffalo kind of have a weird bone structure. I'm doing a pretty bad job of this, by the way. But, you know, you do your best. It's been a little while. Now, you know, I could, if I wanted to, I could probably get through the ribs with this knife, but not really necessary. So, if you notice, try to get out of the way. I made a little, not that great of a job on that side, but see how I'm coming to the end of the ribs here? Coming to the very end, boop, boop, like that. Yeah, that's what we want to see. Now, this whole section is boneless. All right, so we're going to separate that later. And the nice thing is, just like a catfish, they've got this membrane here, and we can actually pull that. I might have to wash my hands to do it. My hands are kind of slimy, but I'm hoping that will help me kind of, well, yeah, I'll mess with that later. But, you know, that helps protect the meat a little bit. You can get a little bit of that off, and if you make a mistake like I did, you know, that is what it is, right? So we got one fillet off, and obviously, you know, I'm gonna do the same on the other side, but we'll do that in a second. Now on this side, I'm gonna see if I can get some cheek meat out of this guy. So when you're cutting cheek meat off fish, it's typically from here. This is their gill plate. He's got a little bit, I think, of cheek meat. And cheek meat, if you haven't had it, on most fish, I don't know about a buffalo because I haven't tried it on these guys yet, but usually cheek meat is the best. Hey, you know, at the very least, use this little bit of cheek meat as bait or something. See how I cut this flap? I'm just going to peel it off like a scallop. That. So many people leave the cheek meat on big walleyes, big catfish. That's what cheek meat looks like. We're going to clean that up later. Going to cut off that red meat. And you're going to have that beautiful pearl of cheek meat. I love cheek meat. All right, so we got one side filleted. Going to do the other side. And in typical fashion, I'll probably will do a worse job on this side, given that it's, you know, you don't have the other side of the fish is backing for your fillet job. But that's okay. You know, do the best you can. Right, so connect our cuts there. And it's really important on these big fish. They've got real thick spines. So don't go just, you know, don't do this whole thing. You're going to miss a lot of meat doing that. Really, you know, see if I can show this. When you're filleting them, you want that knife to be angled down like that so that you are getting all of the meat off those bones. Right? And, you know, I caught this guy snagging, or this girl snagging, rather. So, buffalo, in a lot of places, they don't always reproduce the best. So if you can avoid it, and I know there's not really a practical way to do this, but you know, try to limit harvest on these fish. They're really beautiful. They're a native fish, contrary to their reputation. They are not a carp, and they don't really share much in common with the carp, except for their bone structure. I think they are a vastly superior eating fish. And there's a reason why. You know, there still exists a commercial fishery for these fish in the United States today, particularly on the Mississippi River. All right, so we're going to be looking for that edge of those bones, right? And really trying to get as much yield off this fish as possible. I missed a little bit right there. Oh, okay. There it is. All right. So, keep cutting into that rib meat. That's good stuff. Come on. I'm doing this in the worst possible way, just for the sake of trying to get you guys a good view of it. There we go. All right. Okay, so I'll work on that bone. Now, got the fillet separated on this side. I mean, my goodness, look at that fillet. If anybody were to put that in front of you, tell you it was some fish from the ocean, you'd believe them. So I'm going to take this beautiful fillet, I'm going to just place that right there on top of the other one. We're going to get the cheek meat off this side. Hopefully it didn't get too damaged. We did gaff this fish. So got a little bit of meat loss on that cheek section. Like so. Boop. All right, cut that free there. All right, now do the old peel. All right, got a little bit of dirt on there. I have to wash that off. All right, see, you can see I did get a little bit of meat loss on that piece versus this piece, but cuts of choice. Right, so that leaves us with the carcass. And I'm going to see if I can get this collar separated without destroying my knife. All right, so make a cut there, cut up here. I might even do this collar in two separate pieces. You shall see. I should just be able to break it pretty much. Most fish, they will have a hinge where their collar meets the upper part of their bone structure. Buffalo are no exception, right? Collar meat, fantastic. Full of fat, great for you. The one caveat with this is make sure that you know the water quality of the place that you're harvesting your fish from, because if it is a place that does not have good water quality, you don't want to be eating all this fat. And that is why in some rivers there is a recommended smaller portion size for these bigger fish. Right, and from there, you know, we can snap off this this spine and save it for fish stock, which I will probably do. And really the only thing that you're throwing away is the head. And you know, if you really wanted to do it, you could use this for fish stock. We've taken most of the usable meat out of it. But yeah, that is pretty much how you fillet a buffalo carp. I will tell you what, you know, I should also show you separating the, we'll just put this down here for the moment. Let's separate this rib meat just so you guys can see this. All right, so rib meat. Remember, right? All of this is boneless. So not an insignificant portion of the fish. You know, and that's one of the thing about, you know, buffalo is that's one of the big criticisms of this fish is that they're too bony, but golly, you get a big fish like one of these and you're getting a lot of meat, getting a lot of boneless meat. You know, it's not something to just Not something to blink at, right? So, I mean, look at that. That's huge. It's a meal for 3. Now we're going to take this. We're going to go ahead and skin it. Right, when I'm skinning fish, make a little cut here. They've got a lot of bones, so, you know, beware. I'm going to have to cut through them, right? Like this. And I'll be quiet so you can hear me cutting through those bones. Maybe. And if you miss a little bit of meat on the skin, not a big deal, because what you're going to want to do is turn that fillet over. See all this red meat? You're going to want to trim all that off. People talk about fish having a muddy flavor. Typically, you can attribute that to this red meat. And this red meat, from what I understand, and maybe I shouldn't even talk about this because I might put my foot in my mouth, but this is, it's called twitch muscle. And it is essentially their long distance swimming muscles. So you'll have more of this on river fish than lake fish. And if you've ever noticed, if you catch a catfish out of the lake, they don't really have a lot of red meat. But you know, you go and get some catfish out of the Missouri River or some other place, you know, commercially harvested catfish, they typically have a lot of red meat. And so the white meat is what they use, from what I heard, and I might be wrong about this, so if I am wrong, then I apologize. You know, that's their more burst of energy kind of use. So anyways, we're going to cut off the rest of this red meat, like so. And you know, I'll trim this up more, but that's the basic idea, is you want to get off that red meat, and boom, you are left with a wonderful fillet. You can turn that into sausage, you can smoke it and then flake it for an amazing, amazing fish dip. I mean, the uses are as many as you can come up with. So get out there, you know, learn about these fish, learn how to catch them, learn about their conservation. They're an amazing resource. Definitely worth your time. So, thank you.